Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I have another vintage quilt block for you. This one is called Wheel of Fortune. It is a 16-inch block and it uses half square triangles and hourglass units, and it has a nice big center piece in it, so you can show off one of your favorite fabrics in this one. So this one's not too difficult to do, so I hope you'll stay with me and I'll show you how to do it. Here are the pieces that you're going to need to make the Wheel of Fortune block. For A, you need one piece that is 8.5 inches square. For B, you need two 5.5-inch squares, and for C, you need four 3-inch squares. D is four 4.5-inch squares. E is two 5.5-inch squares. F is four 3-inch squares, and G is 12 2.5-inch squares. So I think first we'll work on the big block. We need to put the G squares on the corners, so we need 4 of the G squares to do that. So let's start with the A and 4 of the G squares. Okay, I have taken the 4 E squares, 4 of the E squares, and drawn a diagonal line on the wrong side, and I've pinned them to each one of the corners of the A square. And I'm just going to do these easy corner triangles. I'm going to sew on the drawn line here and go all the way around, and then I'll trim and press. I have a 50 weight thread in the machine. It's in the bobbin and the needle, and I'm at, my stitch length is 2.0. And I'm just going to sew each corner. Okay, next corner. Okay, now when you trim these corners, you can use your rotary cutter or you can just use scissors, and that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm just going to trim off, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, and now I'm going to press all of these corners out, and then we'll have this snowballed unit. Okay, now I'm going to make some hourglass units using the B and the E squares. Now on the E squares, I've drawn a diagonal line on the wrong side, and I'm going to pair those up with the B squares. And what we're first going to do is make half square triangles with these. Okay, and we're going to put these wrong sides together, and I'm going to go ahead and pin these so they don't shift, because they're, you know, pretty good size pieces. So I'll just pin those on both sides, and then also a 1/4 inch away from both sides of those drawn lines. This will make the half square triangle part of an hourglass. So we'll go ahead and sew these. Swing it around and sew the other side. Okay, now I'm going to cut these apart. And once again, you can use your rotary cutter. I have my scissors handy, so I'm going to use them. So there are 2 half square triangles there, and then we'll have 2 here. Okay, and now I want to press these towards the green fabric. So half square triangles, I'm going to press the seam towards the green, so I'll press it that way. Then we'll put them back together and do some more sewing. Okay, now I've drawn a diagonal line in the reverse angle here on the opposite triangle on 2 of these half square triangles. Now I'm going to put them right sides together, but I'm going to match up opposite colors, so white to green, and I'm going to make sure those seams are all nested together all the way down, and I'm going to pin in a couple of places. Okay, and then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch away from both sides of this drawn line. Okay, so I've got those sewn, and I'm going to cut apart on the drawn line. Okay, and then when I open up, I have an hourglass unit. So I'm going to repeat with the other 2 pieces. Okay, now I'm going to trim up these hourglass units, and what I've done is I've taken a 5-inch ruler and I've marked with some glow line tape where, maybe you can see it better this way, where the 2 1/4 inch mark is. I want that to go in the center here, and then I'm going to line up this diagonal line with the seam, and then I know where to trim. So these aren't that much too large, but they are a little bit large. So I'm just going to keep turning and doing the same thing. A little bit farther. They're just little slivers, and it's also taking off those dog ears. But with this unit, you have to do it all the way around the block. You can't just cut off 2 sides, otherwise your triangles won't be even, and you'll have a wonky block, and that's not going to help you any. So there we go. So there's one now. It should measure 4 1/2 inches. There we go, 4 1/2 inches. So I'll just finish the other blocks and then we'll move on. Now we're going to make some half square triangles, and we're going to use the C and the F squares. And on the F squares, I've drawn a diagonal line on the wrong side of each of these. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the hourglass blocks. So just put them right sides together and sew a 1/4 inch away from both sides of the drawn line. Get that through the right part of the foot. Okay, here's one. And I'm going to cut that apart on the drawn line. And now I have 2 half square triangles. Okay, like that. So I'll press these towards the green. So I'm going to need a total of 8, so I'm going to use all 4 of these sets of squares. Okay, now I've pressed all the half square triangles and then trimmed them down to 2 1/2 inches square. Okay, so now I'm ready to put the block together, so I want to lay it out so that I don't sew the pieces on the wrong direction. So I'm going to start in the center, and then I need The quarter square triangles are going to go on each side, and they're kind of centered. So we're going to put the white towards the center block, like that. And then we need half square triangles that will face each other in these corners here, so like that. And watch your diagrams so that you get them going the right direction. So like that. And now we need G squares that will go there, so that will fill out these half square triangles. So the G squares go to the half square triangles. And then the D squares go in the corners. So you have a lot of background in this block. Okay. So there's the wheel that it makes there, the circle. So you just need to make sure you've got all of your triangles facing each other here in these corners, right there, and that your white is facing your center on your hourglass blocks. So this looks all right. So I'm going to start by sewing the half square triangles to the G squares, and as I sew them I'll put them back in place, and then I can start sewing. This will be one row, and then I'll sew these three pieces together on each side, and then this will be one row, and then I can sew all the rows together, so I'll have 1, 2, and 3 rows. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we'll do the half square triangles and the G squares. We'll sew them together first. Okay, I thought of something to show you while I was sewing these together. Now you can't just sew the G squares to the half square triangles any direction you want to. If you'll notice, these are mirror imaged pieces. See here, they're not all the same. So you're going to have 4 going in one direction and 4 going in the other. So that's why it's important to follow your diagram, and that way you're not having to rip out stitches to get everything the way it needs to go. I'm going to go ahead and press these units, and then I'm going to start sewing everything together into rows. And I need to watch that point on that half square triangle. And I have to do the same thing. I have to watch the point. Okay, and here is row 1. Okay, so for this unit, you've got points to match. You've got to match these points here with the seam on the corner square triangle right here. Okay, when sewing these rows together, I'm doing the same thing. I've made a mark, could see that, a pencil mark right there where I need to match points here. So, or match a point to a seam. Okay, here is the completed Wheel of Fortune block. This one wasn't too bad. You do have the hourglass block and you do have points to match, but there aren't any flying geese in this one. So you've got the hourglass blocks and the half square triangles, and then you snowball that center square and just kind of fill in with background pieces for the rest of it. So I think it's kind of an interesting block. So just use a real pretty fabric there for the center, because that's going to be the focus of your block, and I think you'll like your results. So I hope you give this one a try. Well, that's it for the Wheel of Fortune block. I hope you enjoyed this one. It was a little bit different from some of the others we've done lately. Not too difficult to do, so even if you're kind of an advanced beginner, I think you can handle this one. There's just a lot of pieces in it, so I kind of call this one intermediate because of all the pieces in it, but the techniques aren't too difficult, so I hope you'll give this one a try. Now, if you like this video, please click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up, and share this video with some of your quilting friends. So in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.